Welcome, fellow seekers of truth, to another epic journey into the forgotten ancient past. For centuries, the world believed the Great Flood was a story told exclusively in the Bible. But in 1872, a brilliant scholar translated a crumbling clay tablet of myth. It revealed a Mesopotamian legend written many thousands of years before the scriptures. Today, we explore the epic of Gilgamesh, a king's desperate quest to defeat death itself. Inside the British Museum, George Smith carefully examined a fractured clay relic from Nineveh. He wiped away the ancient dust, revealing intricate cuneiform symbols carved by a forgotten hand. As he deciphered the text, he realized it contained a stunning account of a massive global flood. This epic narrative closely mirrored the story of Noah, yet it predated it by thousands of years. Overwhelmed by this historic revelation, Smith reportedly stripped off his clothes in sheer excitement. This fragile tablet transported humanity back to the sun-baked deserts of early Mesopotamia. Around 2700 BC, the glorious city-state of Uruk stood as a beacon of power. Ruling over this massive metropolis was Gilgamesh, a fearsome and incredibly arrogant king. He was described as 2/3 divine and 1/3 mortal, possessing unrivaled strength and beauty. However, his reign was incredibly brutal, forcing his people into endless and grueling hard labor. The citizens of Uruk toiled endlessly under the scorching sun, building massive protective brick walls. No son was left to his father, and no bride was ever safe from the tyrant's cruel and absolute demands. Desperate and completely broken, the oppressed people cried out to the heavens for immediate relief. The supreme deities heard their desperate pleas and decided to create an equal rival for the king. They formed Enkidu from clay and wilderness, a savage beast man living peacefully among the animals. Covered in thick hair and ignorant of human ways, he was the pure embodiment of untamed nature. Soon, Enkidu was lured into the city and learned of the cruel king's deeply terrible behavior. Furious at this injustice, the wild man marched into Uruk to challenge the mighty ruler directly. They clashed violently outside the temple, shaking the very foundations of the great city walls. After a brutal and exhausting battle, they realized neither could win, and a profound respect blossomed. The fierce enemies embraced as loving brothers, uniting the powers of wilderness and civilization. Bored with city life, Gilgamesh proposed a dangerous quest to achieve eternal historical glory. They journeyed to the sacred cedar forest, a dark and mysterious realm heavily guarded by the gods. Their target was Humbaba, a terrifying demonic giant who protected the ancient towering trees. The monster attacked with vicious root-like arms, but the two heroes fought back with incredible fury. Calling upon the sun god for vital assistance, Gilgamesh successfully pinned the fearsome beast down. Despite Humbaba's desperate begging, they mercilessly severed his head, defying the divine will. They proudly returned to Uruk with precious cedar timber, boasting of their unmatched and glorious triumph. Impressed by his beauty, the powerful goddess Ishtar offered herself as a bride to the mighty king. But Gilgamesh arrogantly rejected her, insulting her long history of destroying former lovers. Enraged by this humiliation, Ishtar unleashed the colossal bull of heaven to obliterate Uruk. The divine beast descended from the sky, causing massive earthquakes and drying up the life-giving rivers. Countless people perished as the gigantic bull breathed destructive fire across the once fertile landscapes. Working together seamlessly, Enkidu grabbed the beast's horns while Gilgamesh struck a fatal sword blow. They had achieved the impossible again, but their arrogance had finally pushed the angry gods too far. A solemn divine council convened, ruling that one of the two boastful champions must pay with his life. The devastating curse fell upon Enkidu, turning his incredible strength into agonizing weakness. Bedridden and sweating, the once wild warrior slowly wasted away, plagued by terrifying nightmares. Gilgamesh watched helplessly as his dearest brother faded into the cold and unforgiving shadows. For 12 agonizing days, Enkidu suffered immensely before drawing his final tragic breath. If you possessed such immense power, would you truly dare to challenge the very forces that created you? The mighty king was completely shattered, weeping uncontrollably over the lifeless body of his friend. He refused to bury Enkidu until a dreadful worm finally dropped from the deceased warrior's nose. This gruesome reality struck Gilgamesh like a heavy weapon, awakening a profound and primal dread. He realized that he, too, would eventually become nothing more than dust scattered in the blowing wind. Consumed by sheer panic, the glorious king violently tore off his majestic golden royal garments. He dressed himself in a dirty lion pelt, abandoning his wealthy kingdom to wander the wilderness. His new obsessive mission was to find Utnapishtim, the only mortal granted eternal life by the gods. The desperate journey led him to Mount Mashu, the treacherous peaks where the sun sets into the dark. Guarding this dangerous pass were terrifying scorpion men, whose intimidating gaze could strike men dead. Recognizing his divine blood, they reluctantly allowed the grieving hero to enter the tunnel. He raced blindly through absolute darkness for 12 leagues, frantically trying to outrun the scorching sun. Emerging into a magical garden of sparkling jewels, he found the tavern keeper named Siduri. She urged him to enjoy his temporary mortal life, but he stubbornly demanded to cross the great sea. He sought the mysterious ferryman, who navigated the highly lethal and toxic waters of death. In a fit of blind rage, Gilgamesh foolishly destroyed the stone charms needed to cross the deadly ocean. To fix his grave mistake, he was forced to cut down hundreds of wooden poles to push the heavy boat forward. Using his ripped garments as a makeshift sail, the exhausted king finally reached the distant, hidden shore. There, waiting quietly at the edge of the world, sat the legendary immortal survivor of the flood. Gilgamesh collapsed before him, demanding the closely guarded secret to cheating the Grim Reaper forever. If you were offered a chance to live forever, would you be willing to sacrifice your essential humanity? Utnapishtim looked at the broken king with deep pity, explaining that death is a necessary law. He shared the terrifying story of the ancient flood, the exact tale George Smith read thousands of years later. The angry gods decided to wipe out all of noisy mankind, unleashing a horrific and violent storm. Warned secretly, Utnapishtim built a massive wooden ark, saving his family and seeds of living creatures. After 7 days of terrifying destruction, the gods felt profound regret and granted him eternal life. To prove Gilgamesh was unworthy of such a gift, the sage challenged him to simply stay awake for a week. Exhausted from his brutal journey, the mighty king fell into a deep sleep almost immediately. He slept continuously for 7 whole days, proving he could not even conquer basic human fatigue. Waking up to this bitter failure, Gilgamesh wept as he realized his ultimate quest was entirely hopeless. Taking pity on the broken man, he revealed the location of a magical rejuvenating plant. Gilgamesh tied heavy stones to his feet, diving deep into the ocean to carefully pluck the thorny flower. He successfully retrieved the precious prize, intending to bring youth back to the elderly elders of Uruk. But while he rested and bathed in a cool spring, a stealthy snake quietly approached the unguarded treasure. The serpent snatched the magical plant and immediately shed its old skin, slithering away fully renewed. Gilgamesh fell to his knees and wept bitterly, realizing he had lost absolutely everything he sought. He returned empty-handed, completely defeated by the unyielding laws of human mortality. But as he gazed up at the magnificent brick walls he had built, a profound understanding washed over him. He could never achieve physical immortality, but his monumental creations would outlast time. Thousands of years later, George Smith sat in London, staring at the very words written by those ancient people. The clay tablet proved that while the tyrant king's body turned to dust, his epic story survived forever. Gilgamesh had conquered death, becoming immortal through the enduring legacy of his civilization. Gilgamesh ultimately failed to live forever, but his grand walls ensured his name wasn't forgotten. Does immortality mean living forever, or is it the grand legacy we leave for the world? Please like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more epic history.